It appears the conservative movement has finally come for same-sex marriage. After overturning Roe, getting rid of transgender rights, literally erasing transgender people from the government, Republicans have now finally set their sights on overturning marriage equality. The Heritage Foundation majority has agreed this fall to consider a case explicitly asking them to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, the decision that allowed for marriage equality to be protected all across the country. Now, the case, of course, was brought by former Kentucky clerk Kim Davis. That's right, she's back, who spent 6 days in prison after refusing to do her job, which was to issue marriage licenses to anyone who was legally allowed to get married, which included, after Obergefell, same-sex couples. So she refused to do that. And then, oh, look, would you look at that? She got punished and then claims to be the victim after denying people their rights under the law. Right. Now, Davis is appealing a $100,000 jury verdict for emotional damages, plus $260,000 for attorney fees. In fact, she apparently is claiming that she has emotional damage from what happened to her. Now, look, this woman, she wanted to get paid government money to deny same-sex couples their right to get married because she didn't agree with it with her religion. Her religion being applied to someone else, to other people. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't consent here to you getting married, so I'm just going to deny you your rights under the law. That's not how the First Amendment works. That is not how freedom of religion works. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She claims that her First Amendment protections immunize her from personal liability for her denial of marriage licenses. So she's saying, well, my First Amendment, my freedom of religion protects my discrimination against these people when it comes to the law. Okay, I don't have to issue marriage licenses to you. I don't have to do that, even though it's literally part of my job and I work for the government. I shouldn't have to because I don't agree with gay marriage. But that's not all, okay? She also, in her appeal, claims the decision itself in Obergefell was egregiously wrong. Davis's attorney, Matt Staver, said in their petition, quote, "The mistake must be corrected." Meaning, of course, we're going to rip same-sex couples apart. That's the reality of the situation. Okay? Now, lower courts have already previously dismissed Davis's claims, and most legal experts consider her bid to be a long shot. For example, a federal appeals court concluded earlier this year that the former clerk cannot raise the First Amendment as a defense because she is being held liable for state action, which the First Amendment does not protect. Okay. However, I don't think that that's going to matter now because we have a Supreme Court that doesn't really care about that. They're active as judges. I believe that if they take up the case, and there's a good chance that they will, that they'll also vote to overturn marriage equality. I know I may be in the minority here in thinking that, but I'm just saying that assuming that the court will actually act in good faith and listen to the merits and respect the precedent, I think that's naive at best. I think it really is. Still, legal experts, they're people that are smarter than me, and I admit that. They're confident, though, that this won't happen. In fact, William Powell, attorney for David Ermold and David Moore, the now married Kentucky couple that sued Davis for damages, said in a statement to ABC News, not a single judge in the U.S. Court of Appeal showed any interest in Davis's rehearing petition, and we are confident that the Supreme Court will likewise agree that Davis's arguments do not merit further attention. Look, again, I'm not a legal expert, but you know, I get what he's saying. I wish I could be that confident. I wish I could be confident. But based on everything that's happened so far, I don't see a favorable outcome. I don't see the Supreme Court saying, no, we're gonna pass on this one. We're gonna punt. Maybe they will. There is a chance. And you know, if they do hear it, I'm pretty sure it's over. Okay. Look, they're already setting this up. In 2025, at least 9 states, and by they, I mean Republicans, okay? They've either introduced legislation in 9 states aimed at blocking marriage licenses for LGBTQ people, or passing resolutions urging the Supreme Court to reverse Obergefell at their earliest opportunity. This is according to the advocacy group Lambda Legal. So you have 9 states that are already working on doing this, setting up challenges. Not only that, but in June, the Southern Baptist Convention, the nation's largest Protestant Christian denomination, overwhelmingly voted to make overturning of laws and court rulings, including Obergefell, that defy God's design for marriage and family, a top priority. That is a top priority. Not helping poor people. Not helping poor people. Okay? Not caring for the sick. Not defending immigrants, which, by the way, that's actually in the Bible. Caring for immigrants, resisting, poor, the rich, fighting against rich people. That's in the Bible. This is not. And yet, the largest Protestant Christian denomination in the country, that's their top priority. That is their top priority. Taking down marriage equality. And look, among Republican voters, support for same-sex marriage has dropped, down from 55% in 2021 to 41% this year. Support for same-sex marriage is now a minority in the Republican Party. And a lot of that, of course, is right-wing media, but I think also maybe the fact that the right wing is being more honest about who they are. They never actually supported same-sex marriage. They were just afraid to speak out. And now they're emboldened to speak out against it. Now they feel like, oh, finally, I can take the mask off and show you the ugly person that I am inside. The one that hates love. That just loves to hate. Hate against immigrants. Hate against minorities. Hate against people who are LGBTQ. That's it. That's what they want, okay? And again, you have this same administration that now says, we're going to go after homeless people. We're going to go after the unhoused and forcibly institutionalize them, because they're mentally ill. Well, who happens to be a large group of people that get kicked out of their homes? LGBTQ plus people. They get kicked out because their parents are bigoted and do not support them. Now, this administration says, well, you're not only homeless, but you're also mentally ill. Yes, they're probably going to designate, they haven't already, being gay or trans as a mental illness. You hear them talking about it all the time, and then using that as a way to forcibly throw them into camps. That's the reality of the situation. Unfortunately. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's what's happening. It's the road that we are on. And it's a dark, dark road. Look, one of the people who was brutally honest about this is Justice Clarence Thomas, who was on the court, who will be making one of these decisions. In fact, in 2022, he explicitly said, if we get a chance, let's revisit Obergefell. He said the justices should reconsider all of the court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. These are decisions that deal with fundamental rights to privacy, due process, and equal protection under the law. They're telling you openly that, we're going to get rid of these things. That's what we want to do. And so do many Republican voters, unfortunately. They were never for freedom. Never for freedom. Not for anybody who they don't like. Not for gay people, not for trans people, not for black people, just for them. That's it. Now, the court is expected to formally consider Davis's position during the fall in a private conference when the justices discuss which cases to add to their docket. If the case is accepted, it would likely be scheduled for oral arguments next spring and decided by the end of June of 2026. Now, look, again, I can admit that perhaps I am wrong. I mean, according to Sarah Isgur, an ABC News legal analyst and host of the legal podcast Advisory Opinions, Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett seem wildly uninterested. Maybe Justice Neil Gorsuch, too. There is no world in which the court takes the case as a straight gay marriage case. It would have to come up as a lower court holding that Obergefell binds judges to accept some other kind of non-traditional marital agreement or arrangement. Okay, I get what you're saying, but that does not mean that the court won't hear it. Okay? Again, we heard similar arguments that Roe would never be overturned, or the Chevron doctrine, which had long precedent. But yet again, here we are. Here we are. They're both gone. And we have a conservative 6-3 supermajority that we cannot do anything about, headed up by Chief Justice John Roberts, who had dissented in Obergefell, warning that it creates, quote, serious questions about religious liberty, which is the same argument that Kim Davis is making now. So, look, if you're concerned, you have good reason to be. If you're not concerned, maybe you should get concerned. Because right now, as a country, your rights, if you're LGBTQ+, if you're a woman, you're a minority, you have already been targeted. And your rights are being taken away. Today. Due process. Gone. Bodily autonomy. Gone. Pretty soon, your right to be legally married. Gone. Where are the gays for Trump? Where are the log cabin Republicans? Where's the group, the LGB without the T? Where are you guys? Where are you? You know, the groups that piled on transgender Americans for daring to want to exist in society. The people who supported Trump and Republicans. Well, they're not going to come after me. Really? Really? Because Republicans, they want to take your rights now. It's almost like, you know, the leopards that we warned you were going to come after you are now coming after you. Potentially. They might be coming for your face next. And you can't say, we didn't warn you. Can't say, oh my God, oh wow, I didn't see this one coming. Because you damn well should have seen it coming, because it's what always happens. Always. They're never done taking rights away from people who are not their people. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shut down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.